right, I'm just going to show you and walk you through a few more practice problems just because this is such a new topic. I have 2, 4, 6, 7 problems that I'm going to work through with you. So just watch me as I solve them. If you would like to copy them down and solve them along with me on your own in a notebook or on an empty page in your notes booklet, you are more than welcome to do that. What I'll do is maybe zoom out here so you can pause the video and copy these problems down, or just the original problems, and then work through them with me. All right, so we have the first 2 problems here. So remember, distributive property, we draw on our arrows or we imagine those arrows because we're distributing this outside term to each term on the inside. So that means I'm going to distribute it, draw on my arrows, and when I distribute it means I multiply. So in the first part here, I'm going to multiply 4 times 3x, and I know 4 times 3 is 12. And so when I have this x in here, I'm just going to add in the x on the side. So 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 3x would be 12x. Okay, my sign carries down. And then I do 4 times 2, which would be 8. Okay, so this would be my factored expression using the distributive property for 4 times the group of 3x plus 2. My next problem over here, I'm going to distribute my outside term. So when I distribute, I'm multiplying 3 times 7y. So 3 times 7y, it's going to be the same thing as 3 times 7, but now I have this y value attached to it because that's technically another number being multiplied together that I don't know what the value is. So 3 times 7y would be 21y. My sign stays the same, minus 3 times 1 is 3. So 21y minus 3 would be my answer for that. All right, next one. I thought I'd throw in a little bit more difficult of a problem here. Okay, so just bear with me. I'll walk through it slow. It's going to be the same exact process. We just have a little more variables that we're working with here, but it's going to be exactly the same. So again, I'm going to distribute my outside term to each number on the inside. Okay, and when I'm doing that, I'm multiplying. Now, we have worked with multiplying variables before, which means they are just written right next to each other, just like they are here. When you're multiplying 2 variables next to each or with each other, though, you're going to just write those variables together, just like you've seen here. And now that we have a term associated with each one of these variables, what we're going to do is we're going to multiply the terms together and then add the 2 variables next to that, or right next to it, to show that they're all being multiplied together. So I'm going to write down the answer. Here's what this factor or this distributed term would equal to. It would be 6ab. So what I did is I did 3 times 2, which gave me 6. And that means that I'm also multiplying 8 times b, which is ab. And I don't know what that is. We don't know what either one of these variables represents. So if that's the case, we're going to combine what we can and then just add in what we don't know. So my addition symbol stays the same, and I'm going to do the same thing over here with these. So I'm going to distribute my 3a to my 5c. And I'm going to multiply my 3 and my 5 together because those are the values that I know. Those are the known values. So 3 times 5 is 15. So I know I'm going to include 15, but I don't know what a and c are. And if I did, I would be able to multiply those guys together to get one value here, but I don't know what they are. So I have to multiply them together, but I have to show that I'm going to multiply them together without knowing what they are. So it ends up becoming 15ac. That was a little bit more challenging of a problem, but the process is still the same. We just haven't worked with multiplying different variables together. However, I think the concept is pretty understandable with what we have worked with before. And if not, not a big deal. I just thought I'd show a little bit more advanced of a problem. This is not going to be something on your test. All right, so the next few problems, I'm going to start off with some pretty easy ones, and then we're going to do one more challenge problem, but now we're going to be working with factoring. So we're given our expression using the distributive property. We're going to factor out the greatest common factor of the terms that we're given. So I know that the GCF of 6 and 9 is 3, and that's going to be my outside term that I'm pulling out of each term, but I'm also dividing each term by. So when I pull 3 out of 6a, that means I'm dividing 6a by 3. So I'm left with 2a. Okay, so 6 divided by 3 is 2. I don't know what A is, so I have to keep it as A. So 3 times 2A would be 6A. And then I'm going to carry my symbol down, and I'm going to pull 3 out of 9. So 9 divided by 3 gives me 3, and this would be my factored expression. Remember from yesterday, when we are factoring and you think you found your answer, you can use the distributive property and work backwards to kind of find out what if your answer that you have here matches this. Well, I know that 3 times 2A would be 6A. 3 times 2 is 6. We have to add in the A right next to it here. Plus the group of 3 times 3 is 9. So you can always use that as a double checking method. Next problem here, 20C plus 4. Let's find the GCF of 20 and 4, and I know that's 4. So that's going to be the term that I'm pulling out of each one of these terms here. So 20C divided by 4, what am I left with when I divide 20 by 4? I'm left with 5, but I have to include my C. So 5C is what I'm left with, plus 4 divided by 4 is 1. Okay, so my group would be 4 times the group of 5C plus 1. Again, if you need to double check, 4 times 5 is 20C plus 4 times 1 is 4. Next one, 33P plus 22. My GCF of 33 and 22 is 11. So that's what I'm going to pull outside of my parentheses. So when I do that, I'm dividing each one of these parts by the term I pulled outside. 33P divided by 11 gives me 3P, and my addition symbol carries down. 22 divided by 11 is 2. And I'm left with 11 times the group of 3P plus 2. All right, one more. This one's going to be looks a little trickier, but it's not. It's going to be the same process. You'll notice that we have 2 different variables going on here. We have B and Y. Now, we could pretend that this B wasn't there. We can ignore it, and we would be able to solve that problem exactly the way we have been. So 5 plus 20Y. We would find the GCF of 5 and 20, which is 5, which is what I'm going to pull out on the outside, okay? If that B wasn't there, we would divide 5 by 5 and get 1, plus 20Y divided by 5 would be 4Y, and we would have our answer. However, now that that B's there, we just have to add one more part to this here. So 5 divided by 5 gives me 1, but now I'm left with B. So technically I have 1B left. If you have one of a variable, we don't write the number 1 outside of it. We actually just leave it as the variable. So my answer for this would be 5 times the group of B plus 4Y. Technically, this means we have 1B. If I were to work backward with this, I would do 5 times B would give me 5B, plus 5 times 4Y would be 20Y. Okay, so like I said, the problems that you're going to be working with today are probably not going to be this difficulty level here. I just wanted to kind of introduce you to this so that you have that understanding if you need it in future grade levels. However, this is not going to be required of you, just to kind of get your brain working a little bit here today. So your homework for today is going to be this sheet here. It says Tuesday, March 2nd, the distributive property. You have just basic, and you'll notice probably a breath of fresh air. These are pretty easy compared to the ones I was just working on with you. Drawing your arrows, you're going to use the distributive property to rewrite each expression. Down below, you have a matching. So you have column 1 and column 2. You have lines next to each one of these problems here. You're going to use the distributive property, and you're going to find its matching equivalent down here. And you're just going to write, let's say A is equal to number 1. I would just write 1 in the line right here. Now these are they look intimidating, is how I will word it. Use the distributive property, draw on your arrows, and see if you can figure out different ways that these would be written over here. So I'm going to do letter A with you right now. Letter A is A times the group of 1 plus 2 plus 3. Now, this looks a lot different than what we were working on up above and in the 2 lessons prior to this. However, the distributive property can still be used the same way. So I'm going to distribute my A to everyone on the inside, which means I'm left with 1A, because you're multiplying them together, But remember, when we have one of a variable, we don't write 1 in front, we just have a. So we have a plus, and then a times 2 would be 2a, plus a times 3 would be 3a. That would be my simplified expression. Now I see that right over here. So that means that letter or number 5 matches with letter A. Okay. I will tell you, you have a fraction and a decimal out front here. You're probably going to want to use a calculator. Or think about what 2/3 of 15 is. So 2/3 of 15, because you're going to be multiplying these guys together. And remember, of means 1. Set it over 1, or I'm sorry, of means multiply. Set it over 1, simplify ahead of time, and multiply your fractions. Okay, I'm going to write a little hint here. All right, so let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, feel free to email me. Maybe tomorrow what I'll do is open up a little math Google Meet. If you have questions on this part down here, this is just like I was doing with these practice problems at the beginning here, just to kind of explore your brain, open up, be a little bit more open-minded with this distributive property. But again, you're not going to be expected to be a master or an expert at this part here. Okay, so let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, I'll be walking around if you're in class today. If you're at home, save those questions for a math Google Meet that will be open tomorrow, just for any questions for a half hour. Otherwise, come to me your next in-person day.